It is Wednesday, October 9th, and we are back out here at Old Faithful. This is our first sit since the last time you saw us. 2 weekends ago we came out, my wife and I came out on a Sunday, had a really good hunt, saw several deer, a few small bucks, a lot of doe and fawns. Last weekend we started my fall break. I am an assistant principal at a middle school, so we had this whole entire week off. My wife and I went out to Colorado just for a short quick vacation, do some hiking and be out in the outdoors. Unfortunately did not do any hunting out there. I have never done any hunting out west, so if you got any suggestions on, I know it's not easy, but somewhere to start out west, mule deer, elk, just leave a comment below and let me know, and I would love to give it a shot, especially having fall break every year in October. I would like to go out west and give it a go. With that being said, we got to see several mule deer and a few elk. Watched a pretty good elk from about 30-40 yards or so kind of come out, and he was feeding and ended up bedding down right in front of us. And then also had the camera for that one. And then our last night in Rocky Mountain National Park, we were cooking dinner and then decided to could hear some bugling going off in the distance. Went out the back of the campground and crossed the creek, and sure enough there was a really big elk, or a really large bull, and another good sized bull, but not as big as that one, with about probably 15, 20, maybe more cows out there. So that was pretty cool to see. Unfortunately it was too dark, couldn't get any video of that, but was able to get some pictures, so that was pretty cool. But all in all, really good experience out west. Always love out there, being out there in the mountains, but happy to be back home and chasing these whitetails. We are sitting in the corner of Old Faithful, probably about 70 yards or so from where you saw us the last, or 2 weekends ago with my wife. We are in a 6x6 soft side redneck blind that we have on a trailer back here. We are hunting over some cereal, wheat, rye, and clover. We finally got some much needed rain from the hurricane. Unfortunately, it brought some devastation to East Tennessee and North Carolina, praying for those people, but finally these food plots are starting to take off. We also are sitting over a water hole that we put in about 6 weeks or so ago. Came out here and dug a small little hole and put a 50-gallon tank down because it's been so dry, and it is definitely not big enough. My dad and I have each refilled this thing, I think twice in a span of 6 weeks, so almost 4 different times, and these deer are hammering this water hole, or this water tank, whichever you want to call it. So we were finally out here sitting over it, and hopefully we get a little lucky and a buck or new buck comes strolling by. We're still somewhat struggling to put a hit list together. I don't know what it is this year. Usually we'll get some deer that start moving in here, at least nighttime pictures of them. You know, they'll pop up in daylight here or there, but nothing so far. We did have what looked to be a 9-point, looked like he had a heavy rack, but a smaller rack, maybe a 3.5-year-old, come out this morning, and we'll hopefully get a good look at him. We're still hoping to see the wide 8 that we had pictures or got a video of on the mock scrape over there a couple weeks ago, but yeah, I've not seen him since archery opened 2 weeks ago, so I'm wondering if he's already been popped with an arrow or not. But nonetheless, we're out here. Similar story to all the other properties. We had some pretty good deer that were showing up in velvet, but they've seemed to disappear, and we haven't really had anything else move in, so hoping some bigger deer show up. But as always out here in Tennessee, it's always a grind. You know, we would love to see a 4.5 or 5.5-year-old deer out here, but you know, a 3.5-year-old deer is still quite the trophy out here. So we'll sit tight, and if something comes out and it gets our heart pumping and gives us the shakes a little bit, we may let an arrow fly. All right, guys, I think I got enough light to do this interview real quick. Ended up being a really good hunt. Probably saw 15, 20 different deer today. A lot of does and fawns at first, kind of on both sides of me, and then ended up coming out in the plot in front of me, taking a drink in the water trough that we put in a couple weeks ago. That was pretty cool to see. Ended up seeing 2 small bucks with about 45 minutes left to shoot and left. They're about 90, 100 yards away. I couldn't really get the camera focused on them. And then about the last 15 minutes or so, it turned on pretty quick. Had this kind of funky rack spike buck. His body looks pretty big, but he came out first. And then a buck that I've kind of been on the fence about. He looks older. His rack doesn't look as good on camera, but definitely looks much better in person than on camera. And he came out and took a drink at about, it was like, I think it's 18 or 20 yards right at that water trough, depending on what position they're in. And then I couldn't really move a whole lot in the blind. The deer that are right under me, they're 5 or 10 yards or so. And then if they're about 30 yards out, they can look right into it. But there was another buck on the other side of the standing corn there at last light that I was hoping would come over. He did not, but he looked pretty good though. I definitely do not have a picture of that deer. From behind, he looked like a freaking stud. So hopefully he'll slip up and walk in front of a camera here soon. Still on the fence about that buck that the kind of has a little drop there at the end of his point. I think he's a big 6 point, maybe a 7. Not sure what I was going to do. I told myself if he came into range, I'd shoot him, but with that other buck right over there, I was kind of hoping he'd come in and take a drink of water as well, but he did not. So we'll see. I left my tripod and some other things in that blind, and we should have the same wind in the morning, so we're going to try to sneak back out there. I know it's early in October, but if that deer's close, I'm hoping he's going to pop up and want some water in the morning, and we'll be there when he's there.